Windsor has been delighting visitors for centuries, even the Queen has made it her home. Join us as we share a day in this historic town, including Eton, with plenty to see and a bit of history and some tips for a great day out. Well, good morning, memory seekers. We're in the Royal Borough of Windsor today. We're walking along the towpath here by the Thames, and we're going to show you around some of the wonderful sights here at Windsor. Looking like it's going to be a nice day. The sun is starting to come out, the grey clouds are moving away. So I hope you enjoy our little trip here today. Stay with us. Arriving early and avoiding weekends will offer you a less crowded experience for at least the first few hours of your visit. We began our walk at 9 a.m. A riverbank walk at this time of day is a great way to start, especially if you're arriving by car, as it's near a larger car park. We'll explain about arriving by train later when we visit the beautiful station. First, let's take in some views of the Thames. The River Thames passes through Windsor as it flows on towards London. The banks are full of canal boats and pleasure crafts, only outnumbered by the large gatherings of swans and Canadian geese that follow you around looking for food. If you want to feed them, then please buy a £1 bag of feed. Bread or other snacks are particularly bad for them. They can be aggressive as well, so be careful. Swans were once a delicacy at feasting tables, and in the 12th century the monarch laid claim to all the swans in England. This law still exists, so technically the Queen owns all the swans. Thankfully, they are now a protected species, and it's illegal to eat or hurt them. If you want to get out on the river and try your hand at navigating the Thames, then you can hire motorboats for 30 minutes or by the hour. You do need deep pockets though, as the prices are steep. This is not the only option though for a ride on the famous river. So it's just coming up to 10 o'clock in the morning, and that's when the riverboat starts. You can take a 40-minute tour or a 2-hour tour down the river, up the River Thames. We're going to go and grab one early before it gets too busy. So we'll go and grab our tickets. I think they're £11 each. And we're going to do the 40-minute ride on the river. The boat arrived just a few minutes before 10. You can book online here or at the kiosk next to the boat. It starts at Windsor Promenade and heads towards Boveney Lock before turning back. On the way you hear a commentary in English highlighting some of the sights.
Busy day. There's a speed limit on the Upper Thames of a little under 5 miles an hour, added to which the Thames takes a very meandering course, so all in all it's not the place to be if you're in too much of a hurry.
If you're sitting at the back, don't forget to look round at the great views of the castle as we disappear around the bend. You won't see it so well from these seats on the return leg. We are just passing by the last bridge built by Isambard Kingdom Brunel. This iron railway bridge was erected in 1849, a single-span wrought iron bowstring arch which cleverly just sits on its supports loosely to allow for movement, expansion and contraction. A single train track brings passengers into the Windsor station. This funny contraption is fondly called the Duck. It's an amphibious truck used by the US military in World War II. They're quite rare these days. You can choose from 2 tours around Windsor. Both of them will splash you into the River Thames with a quack. We'll see where you can board later in the town. As we meander along at a leisurely pace, we'll pass some of the beautiful houses that line the river with some famous former owners like Michael Caine. The river takes us around a bend past the Ascot racecourse and onto the Weir and Lock. The Weir and Lock comes into view. Canal boats and pleasure cruisers can pass through the lock, which will raise or lower the boat depending on direction using the power of water. They can then continue on their journey along the river.
Which is known as the Upper Thames.
Our direction of travel is now the direction of the river that flows to London and then out into the North Sea. Arriving back at the promenade, this was a delightful way to spend just under an hour. The boat was pretty empty, so we really recommend taking the first boat out if you can. Now let's walk up River Street onto Thames Street and head for the main shopping areas and of course the famous castle. This is our route from the riverboat. Some horses from the Royal Mews are out stretching their legs, which was nice to see. The outer walls of Windsor Castle start to dominate the skyline on one side of the road, with tourist shops, cafes and chain restaurants on the other. Windsor Castle is the oldest occupied and largest castle in the world. It was built in the 11th century and has been home to 39 monarchs. William the Conqueror started the construction in 1070, and the first structure was made from timber. It was during the reign of Henry II that the walls were replaced with stone, and King Edward III converted it into a Gothic palace. We'll see more of the castle later. Now we turn into Jubilee Arch, and in front of us is the 1897 entrance to Windsor Station. This area is Windsor Royal Shopping, full of independent and brand shops along with some cafes. On the right, where you see the red brick arch entrances to shops, would have been the booking hall, luggage and station workers' offices. A station opened in 1849 following the completion of Brunel's Bridge that we passed under on the river. The entire station was rebuilt for Queen Victoria's Diamond Jubilee, and this grand station with its arched canopies is what we see today. Many are unaware that this pub next to the platform was once the royal waiting room for Queen Victoria. Besides this building is a replica of a steam engine called the Queen that would have hauled the royal train. Originally 4 platforms, today there is just one, and the station's actual name is Windsor and Eton Central. This is where you'll arrive if coming from London Paddington Station with a quick change of trains at Slough. Total journey time is about 35 minutes and costs approximately £16 return. There is a second station called Windsor and Eton Riverside Station. This is served by London Waterloo Station. The service is direct but will take almost an hour and is about £15 return. We'll see where the Riverside Station is on our walk later. Let's head to the main shopping street, Peascod Street, which many call Peascod Street. It's one of the oldest streets in Windsor, running right up to the castle, though we're walking away from it at present. It gets its name from Pez Croft, a place where peas were grown in the Middle Ages and a staple food of the time. Whilst it's mainly a general shopping street, there are a few interesting historic buildings to view. On the corner coming up, the Red Building, Queen Anne's Court used to be the site of a 16th century inn, just like the part timber-framed property next door. Anne Boleyn used to lodge at this inn when she was the secret lover of Henry VIII. Shame it's gone, but at least we can use this one as a reference to how it might have appeared. Heading back up the street, we're now coming up to the statue of Queen Victoria that sits in prime position at the entrance road to the castle. It's made of bronze and was commissioned to celebrate her Golden Jubilee. Before you cross the road at the foot of Castle Hill, notice the black panel. This is a map of the Queen's Walkway, a 4-mile walk around Windsor you can take. It's marked with these bronze markers at various points, so if you do see them around, you'll know you're on the Queen's Walkway.
So we're walking up beside the castle to the visitors' entrance, and if you're here at 11 o'clock on certain days, and it's not today unfortunately, then there's the changing of the guards, and apparently it's actually better than if you do it at Buckingham Palace.
We are not going inside the castle today as we cannot take photos and film in the state rooms and in large portions of the grounds. If you want to visit, then do book in advance. It's a very popular attraction. Check this website for booking and latest pricing. Just off of Castle Hill, opposite the castle, are a few smaller side streets worth visiting, with tea rooms, cafes and some nice independent shops to browse. It's also a good place to spot more period buildings. You can see our route on the map. We pop out onto the High Street with the Guildhall next to us. It was home to Windsor Town Council as soon as it was built by Sir Thomas Finch in 1687. He died before it was completed. There is some unverified talk that Sir Christopher Wren, who designed St Paul's Cathedral, advised on its completion. The pillared area here was a corn exchange for merchants to trade grain. Prince Charles and Camilla Parker Bowles had a civil ceremony in the chambers in 2005. There is a museum you can visit should you wish to see more inside. We have seen many crooked houses on previous videos. The one by the Guild Hall has an interesting story. Built in 1572, the council ordered its demolition for the new Guild Hall. Following some land rights issues and a legal battle, it turned out the council had no right and had to rebuild it exactly as it was. They did it quickly and cheaply using unseasoned oak, which meant when it dried out and hardened, it was completely wonky as we see today. Ahead of us is Windsor Parish Church, St John the Baptist. We'll pass by on our way to Windsor Great Park and the Long Walk. From the castle gates to Snow Hill is a wonderful avenue of trees created by King Charles II. As you can see, lots of people come to relax or picnic here in Windsor Great Park. It's just under a 3-mile walk one way to arrive at the Copper Horse statue for iconic views back over Windsor Castle. The statue is of George III on horseback. Royal carriages are sometimes seen using the avenue for occasions like Royal Ascot. We are not going to attempt the walk today, as you need 2 to 3 hours to complete it. The path goes right up to the castle, where you can see the Lancaster and York Towers with George IV Gate in the centre. These were built as part of a renovation in the 1820s. Heading back into the centre of town, we have a few more things to point out before we head across the river to Eton. Like this unusual blue pillar box. Back in the 1930s, they were introduced in special locations so people could post mail by air. Painted Air Force blue to be identifiable from the usual red boxes. They disappeared from use when airmail became postable from anywhere. I don't think I've seen another one. This ancient well has no information as to its source or age, but still an interesting find as we walk past the Royal Mews, the stables for all the Windsor Royal horses, some of which we saw earlier. We are now on our way to Eton. Our route will pass the Theatre Royal, opened in 1910 with an early English Renaissance style to the facade. It's also here you can catch the hop-on and hop-off bus around Windsor and Eton, or it's the pick-up point for the duck that we saw splashing into the river on our boat ride. There are some delightful antique shops beside the theatre as well. On Datchet Road is the other station, Windsor and Eton Riverside, so if you come from Waterloo Station, this is where you'll end up, not that far from the castle. We have arrived back at the River Thames, preparing to cross over to Eton. A bridge has stood here for centuries. It is known that one built using oak from the Windsor Forest in 1242 survived until 1820. Then it was rebuilt in iron and stone, designed by Charles Hollis and by William Moore. The cornerstone was laid by the Duke of York in 1822, and by 1824 it was open. Traffic ran across the bridge until 1970, and thankfully it was pedestrianised. You can take in some great views of the river and the passing boats from here, or grab a table at a riverside cafe or restaurant for an even more relaxed break.
I always thought like 1.5, to be honest.
Well, you said 3 a minute ago, that was dark.
Eton has its own walkway and we'll follow some of it, taking us out to Eton College and beyond. It's less busy over this side of the river, with fewer visitors venturing away from Windsor. And in August, with the college closed, there are no students, or Etonians as they're known, rushing around. Let's take a stroll up the high street and take in some of the wonderful buildings. Before long we approach Eton College and you can see the tips of the Eton College chapel through the trees and in between buildings. Eton College was founded by Henry VI in 1440 for 70 poor boys to gain knowledge for free alongside others that paid for accommodation. Today it is one of only 3 public schools to still retain a boys-only boarding school. The privileged few can attend for a hefty annual fee, and Eton will still provide spaces for a few hundred less privileged and help fund their education. A number of the imposing buildings date back to its founding, and as Etonians were not studying, we thought it might be open for a viewing. Alas, they will not let us in. Many famous figures and royals have passed through these gates into the courtyard, with the statue of Henry VI in the centre. 20 Prime Ministers, including our current, well, for a few more weeks, Boris Johnson, and the future King William until he was 18. Continuing to follow the Eton walkway, we reach a bridge and can look back for much better views of the college, as well as feel like we're really entering the countryside. The Eton Walk takes us through the college playing fields, and then we turn back heading for home and Windsor.
Well, there we are. I hope you've enjoyed our little tour of Windsor and Eton today. A little walk around. It's been fantastic. Next time we're going to be trying to find the source of the River Thames, heading to the Cotswolds to go to the very spot where it's all supposed to begin. So do join us again next time. Thanks very much for watching. Subscribe, give us a like and all those things. Thank you very much.